thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
We meet again.
Yes, we do.
I
meet again.
I'm doing a hug, and this is what I'm doing.
This is the hug entrance.
Good hug. We're all about good vibes here, you know? We got to keep up good vibes. Well, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How long ago was it that we were on a show together? We had you on when I was doing the Keeping It Real show.
Yeah.
That had to be a while ago.
Honestly, I think it's been like 2 years.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
It really feels a long time ago.
I know.
But we didn't skip a beat, so it's all good.
Definitely. And whenever we get together, it's always like hours go by and we're like, we still have so much to talk about. And it always feels so good catching up with you.
Yeah.
Because we vibe in so many vibes. Look at that. Subtle advertising there. But yeah, I'm glad to have you back. Welcome to the first ever Let's the People's Podcast. This is what it's about. All about people, and we appreciate you feng shuiing the room. I know you had a limited space to work with, but you did the best. You could. It looks good.
And that's the beauty of feng shui is you can integrate it into anything. It can be even the table itself or the backdrop of a studio or an entire room. But this is very exciting for you to have this show. And you told me about it. I was like, this is awesome.
You were actually one of the first people. I remember talking to you. Remember, I was so excited.
Yes.
I was pacing my house. I was like, I got this idea. It's going to help me promote my speaking. It's going to be able to promote other people in the community. And you were so down with it. You're like, I love this idea.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I love how you integrated the People's Podcast because that's totally community. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know when you came to help me with the room, you were working with so many pieces. Like you didn't know how this table was going to come out. You didn't, the logo was made beforehand and you worked with what we had. We were literally taking pieces in different parts of my house, the neighbor's house, not the neighbor's house, I promise. We didn't do that. But we just took different parts of the house and kind of just like made it work. We made it work.
Yeah. And then, because when Paul, he asked me, he's like, so how could we integrate feng shui into my studio and set it up? And that is something that I know other consultants, masters have done in the past. So I was like, yes, I get a chance to practice and exercise this muscle now. Yeah. And the method that we used is called the Western Bagua Map. And we didn't go fully into it, but the Western Bagua Map basically gives you 9 key categories. And through those categories, you can begin to subdivide the conversation of how do we represent the person, which is known as your fame or reputation, what type of wealth, which wealth can be the wealth of guests coming on to the show, knowledge, which this show is all about, a ton of knowledge, and it goes on and on. But to narrow it down, because this is a very minimalist approach to feng shui, which is excellent, we just shopped around the house, which is something everyone can do, and repurposed the intention of each item, object, books. Everything you see here was designed or arranged in a way to promote the best vibes for Paul vibes and for also to create a cohesive conversation between your guests and everyone else watching at the same time. So
it's just so funny as you brought that technique, because even the artists too, and it shows you all these unique people that we're going to bring in, also pick up on that. How when he was painting, and I'm going to tag to him, on his social media page, but he had this idea of reaching out to the guests and these different energies and these different, and you guys really. You can tell when people look at that as it's not like a cookie cutter way. When you go into someone's house, you can't just think every time and tell them, interrupt me if I'm wrong. But when you go into a client's house, each one is like a whole new experience. That's what
yes, absolutely. You have to be extremely nimble. Open-minded, extremely nimble with what you're encountering, because even like we spoke on the phone and you're just giving me a general idea of what's going to happen. But people can do that, and you walk in the environment, not just the physical, but the emotional environment of the person and the psychological environment of the person can be very different. So you have to be able to align your frequencies, if you will, with what's going on. And almost like Tai Chi, totally relax and just go with it and say, okay, this is what the situation is, or this is what the timing is, or XYZ. And just work with the space. You
actually inspired me early on. I remember we were meeting at Copenhagen in Northport, and you said something like, when you go in to give talks, you got to be open-minded to criticism and constructive, positive opinions, and you can't go into it like, this is the talk I give, I'm going to give this wherever I go. I remember you giving me feedback. I don't know if you remember this, but you were saying, like, you got to be open-minded to finding the needs of wherever you're going. And that's kind of, I guess, the approach you take when you do feng shui, is you find out what do they want, what do they need, and sometimes you probably help them figure that out. I'm sure that every time you go into someone's house, do they know exactly what they want?
That's interesting, because you can start off with a general list of questions or a general conversation, and sometimes they will say, I don't know what I need, or I don't know how to achieve that, or so our job then becomes in essence kind of like a cheerleader, if you will, and then also to give them easy, manageable steps on how to get from where they are, where they're going, but to remember to enjoy the middle passageway. Yeah, because that's where you're going to learn the most, and receive that healing or whatever it is that they're looking to receive from that.
But I think what you were just saying there reminds me of that. We have this conversation a lot, and with a lot of my friends is we're always waiting to arrive. Once the room's put together, I'll be happy. Or once you're done with your work, then I'll be happy. Yep. Or once I obtain this or get this. And for me, and it's funny because when I was getting the first couple of steps done for this show, I was really focusing on just enjoying the process. Yeah. Not thinking about the money aspect, not thinking about the guest, just enjoying the process of picking out the table, the process of ordering these mugs. Those are, and even when you were over, when we were putting each item, we were like, wow, that looks cool.
Yeah, like literally every single item you see here was carefully hand placed. So, it's true. And just testing, measuring, seeing what works compositionally, and most likely it will change. Definitely. And I hope it does change. As you grow, this show will grow, and who knows, it might move out of here and go someplace else. Yeah,
you never know. You got to start somewhere. But I'm liking the vibe. You like the vibe here?
Oh, I love it. I especially love what you've done with this back wall. Yes. And it just has a much more solid, supportive feeling. It's cool. Excellent. Yeah.
And that's the point of learning and growing. When we uploaded the trailer, and there was, as you could tell, there's a lot of differences from now till the time when we uploaded that trailer. And we've taken the advice. People reach out in a very friendly way. And this is what the People's Podcast. It's not the Paul's Podcast. Even though I'm promoting myself as a speaker, it's the People's Podcast. So when people reached out with different feedback and suggestions, I was very open to that. And that's something that's really important to me. And I really look at this show and having people like yourself on. I look at myself as a student at everything, a master at nothing. I'm constantly learning, and I ask the viewers and the guests to kind of come on this journey with me as we discover all these different modalities, of life.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing that I absolutely love about the show that you're putting together, is that it's not just about healing. It's about music, about motivation. It's a lot, and each facet will complement the next. Yeah. So
it's constantly growing. I mean, there's things happening with the show, changes and all great things happening that I would never have guessed would happen.
Yeah.
And just to go off what Evan said before, as one of our other guests, he was saying, don't wait on that idea you have. Don't, because you'll look back and say, either I wish I went for that goal or dream, or you'd be like, hey, listen, at least I tried, or it might be a success. And for me, when I had this idea, I had that ball rolling right away. You were one of the first people I called.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
But let's talk. Cool. I'm sure so many people in today's world, they think they're photographers, they think they're feng shui masters, they think that they're designers, they think they're everything. And this is something Dan and I talk about. Who's Dan the man behind the scenes, working all the magic. We talk about this all the time because with social media, people post a picture. Look what I did. I'm this, I'm that, or I'm a professional photographer. How do you find today's world the difference between someone like yourself who's talented and other professionals, and then people who may come on the scene who may not have that same kind of knowledge? What separates your certification, your experience, compared to someone who's just like, I like just moving things around the house.
Yeah.
And that's a silly question. But.
Yeah. No, it's not a silly question. It is. I feel it's not even. I don't even want to use the word necessarily separate. I think it's more. Are you practicing what you preach? Because you're gonna have a lot of people where I have conversations with some friends about this. Where
they're watching right now.
Yeah, where we talk about what is spirituality, right? Yeah. So we go into that conversation, and I've come across a lot of spiritual people who are very vocalized or yelling. They're not very grounded. So that's why I say it's more about, you could be a beginner, it doesn't matter, but as long as you're practicing what you're preaching. And that's also what at least from my personal definition, the concept of spirituality is self-development and catching yourself and adjusting here and there, being mindful and aware of your environment, not just the physical, but other people, all those things.
All about the vibes? That
all about the vibes, yeah.
What a good segue into the vibes right there.
So I would say, in a nutshell, that would be how I would differentiate the topic. But you need to really practice what you preach, especially if you're going to step into this type of profession, because you are, in essence, in a leadership position.
Yeah. And you're getting invited to people's houses. Very intimate experience.
It's something that people are opening their doors, literally, and also energetically. Their heart, they're extremely vulnerable, and they usually call you when they're in that type of situation.
Wow.
And being mindful of privacy, but there have been a few cases where it's been pretty extreme. On a general spectrum, it could be people who dealing with the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a child, or maybe they just got married. So the variables range. So that's why I say you really need to practice what you preach, and you have to continue to educate yourself and also learn directly through experience. It's one thing to have theory. It's another to really practice what you're learning, and that will build wisdom and everything else that comes with it. I relate to that.
I mean, even doing this show, I went into it with my little experience that I have, and there's always so much to learn, but I went into it thinking I kind of had an idea, and I was like, paradigm shift, I know nothing. And even when I speak, instead of going into it thinking, oh, it's going to go like this, it's going to go like this, I'm just, wherever it goes, it goes. Whether I do amazing, whether I do whatever, there's a learning opportunity in everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure even in situations with you where you maybe work, tell me if I'm wrong, but every client you have, I'm sure you've learned something from every person.
Oh, my clients, they're some of the best teachers.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, but they're also, I remember my mom, one of the things, because the one person who taught me the solid foundation was my mom, named Carol Provenzel, and she passed away in 2010. But one of the things she said to me before she passed on, she's like, your clients will be some of your best allies.
Wow.
And I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do.
Wow.
But also some of my clients have been some of my best teachers.
Definitely.
So
amazing.
The exchange.
That's so good. So for people at home, and I know there's a lot to learn and to, like you said, to practice with regards to feng shui, but what are some basic tips that you can explain over this show? Obviously being in the house is the best way, being there, being with the individual, but we got to compromise today. But you can invite her into your house, but that's a possibility. But what are some things that you could talk to the viewers at home on, ways of feng shui, or things that they can incorporate, or things to keep in mind?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way to begin your journey of feng shui is we like to start with a clean canvas, if you will, so using art terminologies. But that would start with decluttering, as we all know. But there's a lot more to that than just make it aesthetically pleasing, because there's the psychological, emotional, there's also the concept of spiritual, and then obviously physical. So the first thing that my mom taught me, and I pass it on to you guys, is whatever you don't need, use or love, start to sort through it and let it go. Because these objects, whether it's a book, even a CD, maybe it's been a gift from an ex or anything like that, that's a whole other discussion. But the idea is that those objects can also create energy cords, potentially keeping you stuck. And again, that can be emotional, mental, spiritual, and obviously physical too. So I always recommend, in the easiest context right now, start with that, and you can start room by room or section by section, and just begin to understand how do these items, objects, paperwork, whatever you may have, relate to where you are currently, and is it going to support you to where you're going, so you can start to align the energy frequency that way.
That's good. I mean, I could even relate to that on a personal level before I even knew anything, before I even met you, just the idea of that feeling you'd have when you just cleaned a drawer, cleaned your room, and that's the idea. It's weird because it also affects you mentally and spiritually, like you said. It almost clears up space. Oh, one thing I cleaned, then I walk into my room, it looks nicer than over here, and it's almost clearing space in your mind. At least for me, that's how I feel.
Absolutely.
When I do it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember part of my routine you know, when I was dating back in the day, I would go on dates, whatever. And then once that relationship was done, I was like, I get all that stuff and just toss it. It's like purging, basically. And then sometimes I'd find things that would just sneak up. And I was like, oh, come on, man. But that person was still kind of like circulating. It's weird.
What happened? Lord, people. Then eventually, one of the guys found out that you would do that to all the past guys. So what he did, he stopped giving you stuff, and then you would complain about the guy not giving him stuff, and then that didn't last. And this didn't really happen.
Just has to give me a hug.
Just hugs. You do see a big movement of people becoming more minimalistic. That's I said that correctly, right? Minimalistic.
They're being more minimalism.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just use that phrase, sounding.
Tomato.
Yeah, exactly. So you see people doing that more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, we're coming from, I know with my grandma, like she was born, 1920s and all that. They came from the time of depression. So they were all used to like just holding on to everything. And so now we're going to a new generation or generations where we're like, nah, I don't want all that stuff. Instead, we want more experiences. Because I know for sure that's where I fall in that category. I agree.
And, people in my own family, we have different views in that. And it's about respecting people's views. And just as you have different clients, they have different wants and needs. But everybody's way of living is so different and unique to that individual. And I know I'm the same way. I would love to travel more, do things like that. And that's something that's the energy I'm putting off into the world. And, by doing the things I do, my goal is, and I think I'm manifesting that, the ability to travel to different businesses and people like yourself and like go on scene and, eventually do that as a career. Yeah. And to speak at schools and travel, get paid to travel. I mean, that's the life.
Absolutely.
And speaking of travel, you have 2 locations, correct?
Yes, I have 2 locations. So first one is based out in New York, and then the next one is in Los Angeles. So I'm going bi-coastal back and forth. Pretty fun.
You're also able to, I found this out last time when we met, you also are able to do chats through through online and things like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So it's basically a global business, because I've even had clients in Kuwait, Dubai. Wow. Yeah, it was just crazy. I was like, that's awesome.
We have viewers from there right now.
Oh, right.
I don't know, probably. Maybe. One day.
I don't know.
That's the goal.
That's cool.
Very cool, though.
Nice.
Now, you mentioned a lot your grandma, and correct me if I'm wrong, is your grandma or your mother who got you involved with this business and kind of motivated you, inspired you?
It was my mother.
Your mother, okay.
Yes, Mom. Mama Carol, Lucky Carol Cat. That's her nickname. So she inspired me, and she started learning feng shui in 1996, and she was amongst the first, we'll say, pioneers to help get the word out. And 1997 she graduated, and as she was studying, she was simultaneously teaching me.
Wow. So and you're continuing this.
Yeah, I was getting early training, and my first type of consultations took place in SUNY New Paltz in the dormitories.
Wow, you gotta start.
That was the start. Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, Evan and I spoke a lot about speaking and how you got to give talks for free. Sometimes you got to pay to speak. No, I'm kidding. Don't pay to speak. But the point is, though, that you need to learn and to educate yourself and constantly improving.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure you've come a long way since that first consultation.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Now we've started, I say we because I always speak in twos as my mom is still here in spirit.
Very cool.
But now I've started a school for teaching other people how to become certified feng shui consultants, which is quite exciting. So we're going through our first year, and then we'll have our second, third, and keep on going.
Congratulations with that.
Thank you.
And anybody wants
exciting.
to join, we're going to put information in the description of the video. Be sure to check it out. So is there anything else that, is there anything in regard to the season that we're in? Any tips to feng shui with the different seasons? Does it change a lot depending on the time of the year? Because a lot of different people, they change things up a lot.
Well, we are going into fall season, so anytime we start to switch seasons, as mentioned previously, the easiest way to start your feng shui journey is to just clear the canvas. So you talk about decluttering, all that good stuff. But then you can also do what we call space clearing. Space clearing is different from decluttering. Space clearing is more about the energy clearing. And when do we have we already had new moon. When's the full moon? I
don't know. We need some what's that called? The sign. What are those called? Astrology. We need some astrology.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we have, I don't know if it's called a solar eclipse. Not solar eclipse.
We'll find out.
I don't know. But anyway, space clearing, going back to that. With the space clearing, really quick tip on that. I'm going to turn around.
Yeah, please show off the...
Just what we got give here. You this. Okay.
You can demonstrate
some little props, yeah. So there are a few ways in how you can do space clearing. The first one is you can use white sage, which is primarily prepped for ceremonial purposes. And basically, you can take the sage, light a little bit of it, whether it's, I don't know if you have any. Oh, let me see.
Pull it out right there.
Here we go. Great. He's got everything.
We're not lighting it up, guys. All right? I don't want you guys to see the first and last episode all in one, okay?
Okay. So here we have sage. You can either get it loose or it could be in a bundle, such as this. That's kind of spreading.
That's part
Don't
of
worry about it.
We're meant to do that. That's supposed to happen.
So essentially, you would get like maybe a little shell or something that would capture the ashes. And then as you light it, you would start at the very front of the house, the front door. You can start with the first level. If you have a multi-level home, just work your way up top to bottom. Or if you just live in a single room, studio apartment, again, start at the front door and just walk the whole perimeter of the entire space. And giving you a crash course in this, as you're lighting it or before you light it, you can also recite a prayer of your choosing, or what we refer to in Feng Shui is just setting your intentions. So whatever intentions you have for clearing the energy to clear away and then to call in. So always making an exchange. So that could be one way in how you could do it. Or if you want to be something or do something more gentle, you can use some chimes or anything that offers sound. So such as this. Oh, it's too loud. But nonetheless, what this will do is you can go to each room individually, stand in the center, and do a gentle chime, and that will be a little light sound healing to clear the energy. So there's more, but
yeah. Next episode, listen, we're gonna have Laura back. Comment anything you want us to talk about next time she's on. Is there anything else you want to add, or is there any different? What are the different ways that people could reach out to you and maybe connect, social media wise, things like that?
Different ways that you can connect would be the easiest is to go to the website. So that would be fengshuimanhattan.com, right?
Inside joke, guys.
Yes, inside joke. So fengshuimanhattan.com, and from there you can check out the workshop class schedules, weekly blog posts, updating fresh material for quick tips, things like that, and anything else that you need to search out. And we have a variety of consultation options that range in budget as well. So there's something for everyone, basically.
And I gotta say, Laura's been an amazing friend, mentor, just an amazing human being, a huge influence on what I do, more than she realizes. So please reach out to her. Any questions in regards to Feng Shui? If you want to have her back on, please comment that you're interested in seeing her again on the show. I know I am, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to have her on either way. But what's cool about you is, there's so many topics that we could talk about. You and I, we've talked about relationships and energy and all this spirituality, and there's so many cool guests I'd love to have on with you. So I hope that you come back.
I think that would be really interesting to mix up the different, whether it's healing modalities or just different topics in general.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to have Buddhists, Christians, atheists, psychologists, you name it. We want to have them on. And you do a lot of cool videos.
Oh yeah, cool videos. I have my own little talk show called the Feng Shui Manhattan Talk Show.
Super fun.
And I just go to different places. Last one was yoga. The other one we did a little bit more detail on space clearing. Yeah, seriously.
It's all about collaboration.
Absolutely. So I'm also looking for other people to do quick interviews with and moving them along. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on. We love you. Thank you for being
love
on.
You too.
I appreciate it. Another hug. We got a double hug.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Peace.
Bye, guys.